Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome, everyone. Today, we will have a new topic, this time related to gender issues in the context of religious moderation. So, as we know, when people relate religion with gender, sadly, many people have misconceptions that religions tend to be like misogynist, or there is gender inequality, for instance. So there are lots of misconceptions where in the case of Islam is not exception. And that's why for today, we want to clarify some misconceptions on the matter of gender issues in the context of religious moderation, particularly with Islamic religion. So here, Indonesia, as the largest Muslim country in the world, well, there are several insights we can learn how indeed Islam and gender issues can go along, can can indeed be interpreted in a gender inclusive way, because not because we are living in these times where there is more need for gender inclusion, but because the religion sources themselves, the Quran itself, encourages gender inclusiveness. That's why we will have some insights on this topic. And for today, we will interview Professor Nina Nurmila. She is expert on these topics of Islam and gender. So uh, I hope this topic can be more insightful so you can get more, uh, avoid or erase some misconceptions. Thank you, Professor Nina. So my first question is, how do you define Islamic feminism in the very first place? What is Islamic feminism?
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to this session. You asked me about the definition of Islamic feminism. So there are two words, Islamic and feminism. So first, I would like to define feminism first. Feminism is in my book, Women, Islam, and Everyday Life: Renegotiating Polygamy in Indonesia. Uh, Based on my readings of many definition of feminisms, it is an awareness of the existing subordination of or exploitation of women based on their sex, and an effort to end that subordination in order to achieve equality between men and women. Yeah. Okay. So basically, the feminists want justice and equality. Yeah. So that's feminism. And what is Islamic feminism? So actually, based on my readings of Azza Karam's book, I think it is Islam, State, Islam, and Gender in Egypt, in which she categorized feminism into three: Islamist, Muslim, and secular feminists. So this I use this categorization also for feminism in Indonesia into Islamist, Muslim, and secular feminists. So actually, what people call Islamic feminism, I call it Muslim feminism, and I define Muslim feminism as a Muslim who use the Quran and the Hadith to uh, achieve gender equality by reinterpreting the Quranic sources and Hadith, for example. Yeah, because the Muslim feminists believe, or Islamic feminists believe, that God is just. So if God is just, it's impossible for God uh, to say or to support any injustice. So people who use the Quran verses or the Hadith to justify gender inequality, what is wrong is not the Quran or the Hadith, but the way the people interpret the Quran or the Hadith. So that's what it means by Islamic feminism. But I call it Muslim feminist.
Yeah, that's right. In the sense that this is to be very clear, because actually the Quran and the Hadith promote gender inclusiveness, but it's a fact that some Muslims misinterpret these scriptures, and which is something different after all. And to say Muslim feminism, it's like giving agency to the Muslim women because they are active subjects, not just who can interpret their own scriptures and based on this matter. So my second question now is, well, this is very important. Some Western people are that Islamic feminism or being a Muslim feminist is an oxymoron or a contradiction in itself, like they cannot go alone and the like. Can it be refuted with some Quranic verses or prophetic sayings?
Yes, actually, well, we agreed first. I would like to acknowledge that Western feminism is important for us, Muslim feminism, because the word feminism is from the West. But I disagree with the accusation that it is a contradiction in itself. Actually, the aims of feminism is to achieve justice, and justice is the very core of Islamic values. Yeah, so it is not a contradiction. Actually, Islam argue for justice. Even for some Muslim women who disagree of being called feminist, Islam in itself is justice. So if we argue for justice and we do a lot of effort to achieve justice, that Islam itself. But in the secular words, it's called feminism if we do it. If we argue against discriminations against women based on their sex, and there are so many Quranic verses as the basis which argues for gender equality. For example, well, I think the most famous one is Al Hujurat 13, yeah, that in akramakum indallahi atqakum. So, but the verses actually is begins that you are created male, female, and any nations or tribes, and the highest position are the one who is the righteous. That's mean God doesn't see you as male or female, but see you as the most righteous based on what you are doing. Yeah, so that's one of the basis of the gender equality. And then I like the verses in the At-Taubah 71, wal mu'minuna wal mu'minat ba'duhum awliya'u ba'din. So that's interpreted in English that the believing women and the believing men, or wal mu'minuna, the believing men and the believing women the leader or the protector to each other. This means that men can be the leader for women and women can be the leader of men. So like in our daily life, for example, in our family life, some men are capable of providing the family, giving the financial support for the family, but some other men are just incapable of doing it, and some women are very much capable of doing it. So many circumstances in the family is not only men who can provide in the family. So in that situation, women and men need to support each other.
Yeah, that's so insightful. Like the fact that the key here is perhaps that Islam itself teaches us about justice. So because of that matter, when it comes about gender issues, it's not exception. That's why they go hand to hand. Perhaps the problem in Western society is that they think that Islam and gender cannot go along is because they have different conceptions about religion, about gender issues. But it's simple. Just in the Quran itself, it is encouraged to promote justice, and that's why, as I said before, and as Professor Nina said, it's about the fact that how indeed supporting each other in a marriage, for instance, it's a clear example that indeed there is a way of gender inclusiveness. So
Yeah, before moving on to another
yeah.
questions, I just remember that another verse about husband and wife relationship It is described in Quranic verse Al-Baqarah, "Hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahunna." This also shows reciprocity about the needs that women needs men, men needs women. So it's uh, like women is like a close for the man, and the man is like close for the woman. And you know that the function of clothes, our clothes is like to give comfort, and then to hide something that is not uh, properly being seen. So that's the function of husband to wife and wife to husband. So this is like very equal.
Yeah, that's right. Each one has their own roles. So now our third question is related to how do you refute those claims that the Quran encourages polygamy, like in Surah An-Nisa? Can we find a Quranic verse where encouraging monogamy is indeed the ideal path?
Well, I like this question because this is my PhD thesis that I did when I was doing my PhD in the University of Melbourne. So in my book, the dissertation that I published at Routledge under the title "Women, Islam, and Everyday Life: Renegotiating Polygamy in Indonesia," I divide Muslim interpretation about polygamy into three based on the interpretation of the Quranic verse 4:3. So the first one, the group who allow polygamy, that's based on the Quranic verse partial of the An-Nisa, the third, "Fankihu ma taba lakum minan nisa'i mathna wa thulatha wa ruba." So marry women, 2, 3, or 4. Okay, so that's based on that one, not from the beginning of the verse, not until the end. And the second one, I think the largest Indonesian Muslim believe in that middle position, that polygamy is permitted on condition that the man should do justice. Yeah, that's based on the partial interpretation of the verse. It is not from the beginning either, not until the end, but it is longer. So it is based on "Fankihu ma taba lakum minan nisa'i mathna wa thulatha wa ruba', fa in khiftum alla ta'dilu fawahidatan." So that marry women of your choice 2, 3, or 4. But if you are incapable of doing any justice, then 1. So and the third one, actually, the group who is prohibiting polygamy based on the Quranic verse An-Nisa 2, 3, and 129. Yeah. Because the requirements of justice is well, if you want to do polygamous marriage, you need to do justice, and justice, the requirements to marry more than women is stated in the Quranic verse 129, that it is impossible to do justice. Walang tasati'u ang ta'dilu bainan nisa'i walau harastum. So based on this verse, the third group prohibit polygamy, and one of them is Abduh. Abduh, in his Quranic exegesis Al-Manar, which is written by his disciple, is I think well, the writer of Al-Manar, I just do not remember now. I think it is Hassan Al-Banna. Well, we need to check again. The writer of the Tafsir Al-Manar, it is stated that Abduh say ta'addudu zawjah muharramun qat'an indal khawf li adamil adli. So in English, it is that polygamy is definitely prohibited because of the fear that there is no justice. And what is the basis that Islam encourage monogamy? Actually, it is written in the same verse that people use the verse to support polygamy. But the people who support polygamy, they avoid to jump into the later part of the verse, fawahidatan. Actually, Islam is the only religion who explicitly instruct people to be monogamous by saying fawahidatan, marry only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but people only read the earlier parts. Fakihu mata walakum minan nisa'i mathna wa thulatha wa ruba'. That's it. They do not want to move into the latest instruction. Well, polygamy is common before Islam. Islam as progressive religion reform the marriage into limiting it into up to four, but the intended message of that verse is the instruction to marry only one.
That's right. Yeah, this is very important because not only in the case of this verse, but in several cases, well, me coming from Western country, non-Muslims wonder why the Quran says this, like killing non-believers, why the Quran says marry many women, why the Quran says this and that. And there are lots of misconceptions because basically they are not reading the whole surah or what is the previous or the further surah to get the broader context. And this is not exception. Like, okay, yeah, you can find a verse where it says marry two, three, or four, but that does not mean that it is encouraged or that is promoted. Indeed, if we become more analytical, yes, Prof. Nina says, we find the opposite, that it's preferably just to marry one because for the sake of justice, because indeed this is one of the core values that Islam teaches us once again. And when we are talking about this, we just have to keep in mind the role of justice here, because this will be like the compass or the guideline how this interpretation should be correctly be done. So uh, now my question is, this is of course related to the previous one. How do you refute the misunderstanding that the Quran says the male is superior to the female?
Yeah, there is a famous Quranic verse that's still in the same surah An-Nisa 34, which state ar-rijalu qawwamuna 'alan nisa bima fadalallahu ba'dahum 'ala ba'din wa bima anfaqu min amwalihim. So people tend to read that ar-rijal here means the male. Yeah. But the new reinterpretation of the Quran written by, for example, Professor Nasaruddin Umar, who is the current Minister of Religious Affairs, in his dissertation, which is published in the book Argumen Kesetaraan Gender dalam Al-Quran. Well, I really recommend to read that book. He finds that the Quran, when it says about sex, it says Dhakar Unsa. So Dhakar is male, Unsa is female. But the Quran, when it says about gender, it's called like Rijal, Nisa, and then Mar'ah. Well, Mar'ah is a married woman, and not all women are married. And then Rijal is the masculine, Nisa is the feminine. So Quran 434 use a Rijal, not a Zakar. That's mean Rijal mean the masculine. And to become a masculine who is Qawam is like family economic provider. Yeah. The requirements for the masculine who can provide for the family two. First, bima fadallahu ba'dhum ala ba'din wa bima anfaqu min amwalihim. So to be rijal means to fulfill the two requirements, that being superior to the spouse, and the second to spend the money for the family. So being superior in this era, the indicators can be two: higher education, having higher education, or having higher income. But that's not enough. So for the person to be called Qawam should spend the money for the family. So whoever fulfill these two requirements, either male or female, can be the Rijal who is Qawam. So the masculine who can be the family protectors. So some women are capable of doing that, and some male also can be that. That's why it is bima fadallahu ba'dhum ala ba'din, means some women are capable of protecting the family. If some, so the other some are some men also. So it is not about sex. It is about the fulfillment of the two requirements. And this can be fulfilled by both male and female. And a male can be born as a dakar and forever dakar if he cannot fulfill the two requirements, not the rijal. And unsa, the female, if he have higher education, higher income, and she spend the money for the family, then she is the rijal who is qawam. So this is not about sex. This is not adzakaru qawwamun 'ala nisa, but it's ar-rijalu qawwamun 'ala nisa. So I like that reinterpretation of the Quran about 434. This is not to support superiority of men, yeah, but to support the superiority of person who is capable of fulfilling the requirements. Well, actually, there are several other reinterpretation of the verse 434. Like, for example, Nasser Hamid Abu Zaid called that these verses is uh, uh, sorry, uh, descriptive verse, not prescriptive. Means that this verse is description about the society, the generation at the time of the Quranic revelation, that men are superior than women, because at that time of revelation, most men uh, who provide for the family, because the way to earn the money at the time of revelation is different from now. Like, for example, you are trading from Mecca to Medina. Mecca to Medina is very far away. Even if we use bus, it's 8 hours without any traffic jam. So you can imagine you are, for example, walking, or have you go with the on the camel, how long it takes, and the women have any reproductive function like being pregnant, having menstruation. It must be very difficult to have a mobility for women, if a women who need to look for money. Yeah, so different contexts have different way of earning the living. But right now, I am a professor and I can earn the money and higher than you as a male because you are still student. Even though in terms of time, you might be a professor too in the
Yeah.
future. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what is most important, like the insight, because we are still, particularly because this is for clarifying these misconceptions that Islam is misogynist, like the male is superior to women, and but indeed, if we are saying this, it's not because we like it; it's because it's founded in the Quranic scriptures, and that's what this our audience should become more aware that indeed we are not making up stories or interpretations. It just come from the holy scriptures, the way how indeed is encouraged justice, but not only on a societal level, of course, but also on a familiar level. And well, likewise, as we know, family is the nucleus of society, but still, we need to make them more aware how the role of sex and gender and roles, it's something different. So to avoid those misconceptions. And well,
Well, Alberto, I just remember another two interpretation of the Quranic verse 434, but it is similar with what have Abu Zaid have said. Another one is Asgar Ali Engineer, who regard that the Quranic verse 434 is uh, a sociological verse, yeah, not a theological verse. So sociological means that the gender relation can be changing. Not male, not necessarily always the economic provider for the family. And similarly, like Kiai Hussein Muhammad described the verse is informative verse, informing the gender relation at the time of revelation, and not the normative verse, which should be like applicable to all the Muslim anytime, that man should always be the leader of the family. No, it's changing. It's only information. Some gender relation can be the same with the condition at the time of revelation, or can be different. So that's my additional interpretation. Thank you.
you. And our last question is, well, how is the topic of polygamy viewed in Indonesia as the largest Muslim majority country in the world?
Well, Indonesia is well, I can say it is patriarchal countries, and most of the people in Indonesia see polygamous marriage as permitted on condition that the people who practice it treat the wife justly. And so this is the middle interpretation, the second group that I described. And this is actually can be seen in the Indonesian Marriage Law 1974. The article says that basically marriage is monogamous. So that's what the marriage law says. But it is permitted for men to take more than one wife under certain circumstances. So they put requirements that the wife cannot bear children, cannot serve the husband, or being sick, being sick. And then the husband, in order to practice polygamy, need to ask the permission from the religious court, and the religious court will require that the man has the first wife or the existing wife permission to practice polygamous marriage, and then the statement that the man should treat the wife justly, the wife and the children justly, and then to ensure that the man can provide for more than one family, the man should provide the statement of income to show that he is capable of supporting the wife. And I did research about that. Among my research participants, I think my research participants, only one who fulfill the requirements of this marriage law. Among some others just like falsifying the document. For example, the income is only 500,000, but then it is being falsified into 5 million because, and this is under the instruction and the direction of the staff in the court, because the staff said that if you want to be permitted by the judge, you need to make it reasonable evident that you have enough income. If you say that you only have like 500,000, the judge will not allow you to get married. So the person falsify the income from 500,000 into 5
Mm.
million. Yeah.
Yeah, that's well. This is just a brief overview of how is the situation in Indonesia, despite it's the largest Muslim country. Well, we are still they are still facing some issues related to marriage and uh, but still, as we will see in our next topic, it's more about how indeed, despite the downsides of uh, gender inclusiveness in Indonesia, how indeed there are some current trends, and actually we can learn something new about gender inclusiveness in the context of Islam from Indonesia to the world. That's why we are trying to discuss these topics more in depth. And well, in the meantime, I think this is our uh, first discussion points. It's more like an overview. I hope for next video we will be discussing more about the role of Indonesia and what can offer Indonesia to the world on these matters for both Muslims and global society as well. Thank you, Professor Nina.
Yeah, if I can have a closing statement about the polygamous marriage, it's well, the ideal marriage is the monogamy,
Yeah.
and that's how what the majority of people agree and practice.
Mm.
But some people have different circumstances. Well, my research shows that when we take the middle position, that we permit polygamy under certain circumstances, you know that in practice this is very difficult to practice. That's why in my book I recommend that polygamous marriage in Indonesia should be prohibited. Of course, this is not like the best solution. Well, for me it is the best solution, but for some others who cannot be fightful to one spouse, it's problematic. But well, I think for me that's the best solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Nina. So, next video, we will, as I said, we will give more insights about the role of Indonesia to the world on these matters of Islam and gender. Stay balanced and thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.